The video about the low-cost outdoor stove that I presented last week got quite a lot of views. It's a cook stove based on the popular rocket stove, only in this case it's very simplified and made with just 2 cans. Several friends left suggestions in the comments, and I found one of them particularly interesting. Dagoberto Guzman suggested that I make a kind of battery that stores heat so the stove's heat can be used more efficiently and last a long time, even when we no longer feed the stove, when it's turned off. I like that idea, and I did some research, especially about a physical property called volumetric heat capacity, also known as thermal inertia. Well, there are materials with high thermal inertia that act like heat batteries. They take a long time to absorb thermal energy, to heat up, and in the same way, they take a long time to release it. That is, to cool down, right? This is what happens in the summer when the concrete wall heats up and still hasn't cooled down. On the outside, the wall is still hot. This is thermal inertia. Well, taking advantage of that property, the idea is to place a container with a material that retains heat for a long time on top of the stove. So, well, I started working on that. With a woven mesh, I made a support to hold a regular clay pot over the stove. You can also do this with thick wire, right? The setup has to allow air to pass through so that Matudi can work properly. Just like you see here, the pot rests on the edge of the main can. You can add a wire handle so that once it's hot, you can move the pot somewhere else, right? That pot can be taken into a closed room without any risk of using up oxygen. And it will slowly release the heat. I tested it using 2 materials that are easy to find anywhere. And the first test was with ceramic from some broken tiles I had at home. Well, I broke them into small pieces until I completely filled the pot. We started heating with twigs, cardboard. We let it heat for quite a while. It's not like you put it in and take it out after 5 minutes. No, that has to be in there for quite a long time. We said that thermal inertia needed a long time to absorb the heat. And it's also going to release it over a long period of time. If you leave it for just a little while, it won't work for you. It should stay over the flame for a good while so that all the material reaches the right temperature. Pots and ceramics are very heat resistant. They don't break or crack. It's been about half an hour now with this open flame. The pot reached a very good temperature, about 230 degrees, and the test went pretty well. The pot with ceramic, as I told you, reached temperatures of over 200 degrees. But after 15 or 20 minutes, when the Quematudi had already gone out, it was already lukewarm. So no, honestly, I wasn't convinced by this test, so I did a second test. This time I used river stones like you see here, and I compacted them with sand. That is, I put a layer of stones, then added sand. This made the pot much more compact. There were no air gaps left because, well, everything was filled with sand, right? Again, let's turn on the stove and heat it with a good flame. This time I left it on the fire for about 40 minutes. Here you can see how it's heating up. Well, here the pot is really hot. Over 400 degrees, it reached pretty high temperatures. Once the quematootie had gone out, I used a wire hook to take the pot with the stones and sand to my workshop, where the plants are too. The workshop is freezing here. In the morning, it's very cold, and in here, it's about 7 or 8 degrees, right? I left it there on the floor, and here, I'll show you. After a good while, it's already over. Almost an hour. Yeah, an hour has passed since it was there, and it's still at 100 degrees. Look, remarkable, right? And it's also remarkable how the temperature increased inside the workshop. So yeah, this test left me much more satisfied. Bringing the heat battery like I did here into an enclosed space doesn't pose any danger since it has no flame and doesn't consume oxygen. I think it's a really good tip to make better use of the heat from the stove, right? So, while we're making soup or something, we warm ourselves up outside, and at the same time, we heat up the container with stones and sand. So we can store that heat and take it to a room to help relieve the intense cold a little. In the past, there were a kind of pan, they were called bed warmers. It was a metal container like the one you're seeing here, and inside it could hold stones. Others would put embers in it, but most bed warmers were used with stones, just like we made our battery, and this was heated over the embers. And well, once it was hot, it was passed over the sheets, and in a few minutes it would leave the bed nice and warm, right? That's not the case with our heat battery because honestly, it gets pretty covered in soot. So don't even think about doing that. But it was just to, clarify a bit and tell you that this isn't new, this whole idea of heat batteries. It's just that, over the years, they've gradually fallen out of use. But it's always good to keep in mind and remember those old setups, which might be useful to us at some point. That's all for today. I hope you like the video and find it useful. Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, clicking the bell to get notifications when I upload new content. You can also join, and in that case, I'll add you to a WhatsApp group where the premium members are. Thank you for watching the video, and see you next time, God willing.